I have several close friends that have been in the secret space program that have lost arms, legs, had their bodies almost cut in half, and put into these med beds and completely restored back again. Um, and so if we had this technology, suffering and disease and old age, you know, wouldn't be wouldn't be such an issue because you could energetically restructure yourself back to a point where your structure was more optimal. Yeah, like say back in your 20s or whatever.
Dan, if you could take us through your experience as a former US Navy, you worked in telecommunications. If you could just give us a bit of a background story right from the beginning, your involvement in all of this. Where did it all start for you?
How did I get involved in this? In 1969, a really long time ago, I had a high-level top secret security clearance in naval communications, and I received a report in code from a U.S. Navy ship off the coast of Alaska that the crew witnessed a flying saucer coming out of the ocean about 70 feet in diameter and shooting up into space. It was a secret classified priority message going to Chief of Naval Operations. So it seeded my interest into, you know, knowing obviously extraterrestrial presence is here, and obviously the government knows it's here, and so letting us know, that they're here, and why isn't the government telling the people? And so that's where my journey started.
So, Dr. Marshall, he worked with crystals and computers and found properties that balance the energetic field of the body. He's dedicated his entire life to this study and how it affects the mind and body. And so this is where you come in. You've done a lot of extensive research alongside Elena Denan on this. Is this kind of experience you had in the Navy kind of sparked up something in you to sort of deep dive and do more research into these ancient technologies?
Uh, Actually, it was having a malfunction here with this thing here. Um, Actually, it was because of an experience that I had with an extraterrestrial being in the year 1977 that led me to try to understand what I have a graphic here. Can I do a share screen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you need to ask me for permission or anything like that? Or hold on. Multiple part. There you go. You should be able to now.
Oh, okay.
Um,
All right. Okay. This is can you see that?
Yes, I do. I want to
Oh,
ask you about
okay.
this, by the way. Yeah, I
Yeah,
see it.
I was one of 21, top secret military witnesses that are willing to testify under oath for the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. in 2001. Let me get a slide here. This being here is an emissary, what Elena Denan identified, and projected in space a sphere, and within the sphere, geometry is formed. And what the being was essentially conveying was that this is from her book, A Gift from the Stars, detailing 110 different extraterrestrial species, because she had direct
Yeah.
access to the Galactic Federation of Worlds database. And so that led me into working with, yeah, the put the question in my mind, what's the geometrical nature of this matrix of reality and the interface with consciousness in relationship with quartz crystals? And
mm.
so I sought out Dr. Marcel Vogel, who was IBM's head scientist, who opened up a lab to research these unusual energies. and I drove to the mines in Arkansas and got a huge batch of crystals. We're cutting for 24 medical doctors in the San Francisco Bay Area using the techniques that he developed, and it's another project.
That's
But
incredible.
yeah, he was an incredible genius, and he created the liquid crystal displays that we're using, that we're looking at. He developed the red and blue phosphors for color television. He developed the magnetic coatings that we use on hard drives. He had like about 140 patents that
Wow.
he just was a creative genius, and he had an unusual experience after teaching some engineers a course on creativity and at IBM. And so he had this man-plant communication where the thought would affect the plant, and the plant would be hooked up to a script chart recorder. And he found that he could be on the other side of the planet and affect the plant with his mind, and that led him into the research with quartz crystals. And so it was back in the year 2022 that Elena Danan invited me onto a show regarding disclosure and everything, and then she asked about my work with Marcel Vogel with crystals. And let's see if I have a good image here. Okay.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
Thor
Thorhan.
Hanaredion.
Oh, gorgeous.
He's the handsome dude that is commander in the Galactic Federation of Worlds. That when Elena was 9 years old, she was abducted by the Greys, and they rescued her, and they had to repurpose the implant. And now it's tuned to the Galactic Federation channel. It's a military grade quantum communication device that what she sees and hears, they see and hear, and vice versa. And so they relay information.
Sort of
But
like a telepathic
you-
communication, you would say?
no, it's like actually not
More like
telepathic,
a
but it's
cell phone, right?
actual. It's technology. It's
Hmm.
technology where her eyes and ears and she what they see, she sees, and what she sees, they see. It's
Oh,
very advanced
wow.
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah,
So
they're tapped into all our senses, right? Eyes, ears, mouth, all that.
his younger brother, Jen Hanaredion, he was at the time he was going to a university in the Pleiades. He's on Mars. Um, Let me go back there. Anyway, he was going to a university on the Pleiades, learning how to terraform planets. And so Elena said, well, um, we could ask him some questions. He knows a little bit about crystals, as you can imagine. And so from April of 2022 to, just a few days ago, we've been in constant question and answer back and forth with we have about 157 pages of question and answers. And
With Thorhan in them.
oh
Directly
no,
with
just
Thor.
directly with Jen Hanaredion.
Right.
And
So
and
how
so
do you communicate through Elena's chip, or is this through
oh, good question. How that works is I will write up the questions and send it to Elena.
Mhm.
With her eyes, she scans it, they see it, and then they're communicating to her, and she types it out, the answers, and then sends it back to me. And so she acts as
Oh,
like a
wow.
relay scribe in that process. And I've asked him a lot of questions, and one was a real sensitive question that's part of the Prime Directive. The Prime Directive is an actual real thing. The Office of Naval Intelligence was
It's
actually
not just Star
working.
Trek.
Right, right. It was actually seeding the collective consciousness on the planet of these concepts of, teleportation, warp drive, Prime Directive, and all this. It's actually a real thing that more advanced civilizations can't interfere with those that are still evolving. So one thing was listed on the prime directive that we're not supposed to mention, but Thorhan was able to get special permission, and that had to do with altering the structure of the holographic matrix through the eye of the crystal, which which is quite interesting. It gets into some interesting discussion of now Dr. Marcel Vogel. I guess back to some slides here, to get an idea of okay. That's Jenhan. And he's shared a lot of information about the tetrahedral geometry of the universe, about what quartz crystals are, the geometry of thought, breath. This matched what Dr. Marcel Vogel discovered with working with plants, is that like in Kundalini yoga, you have a fire breath and you pulse through your nose. It's more effective at projecting our consciousness with a pulsed breath. Water, quartz, love, they interface because they're based on the same core fractal formula. And this, Jenhan says, dissonance cannot attune with an ordered state of geometrical resonance. You can see that, in Dr. Emoto's work with, dissonant thoughts, they
Yeah.
can't form in the matrix.
No. When he says that it can't have a dissonance with an ordered, so you're saying that essentially the universe has to have disorder to have dissonance?
Well, out of alignment, the universe has a geometrical resonance order to it, and when thoughts are not in alignment with that, in other words, they're dissonant with it, they don't resonate, and it doesn't. It can't transcend into the higher densities. If you're doing work to affect a holographic matrix, if you have like evil thoughts and things like that,
I
it
was gonna
doesn't,
say that's really good, because if you put it into the wrong hands, obviously it wouldn't work, is basically what you're saying.
Or you're
yeah, I
manifesting
mean,
something you don't want to manifest, is what you're saying?
well, dark individuals can affect the matrix, but it doesn't have a lasting effect. It yeah, it's a tricky one. It gets complicated. But
Yeah.
anyway, but there is safeguards in the universe that love allows the thoughts to transcend into the higher densities. And when the higher densities, they form the lower densities of the physical manifestation. The lower doesn't form the higher forms the lower. And so when you operate and go into the higher densities, you affect the holographic structure of the matrix. And when you do it with love, it's more alignment, because we're all fractals of source, and so forth. Anyway, this was Marcel's vision of the tree of life he had in a dream, and so he cut the crystal in this form, and then he thought that, well, if I put more sides on the crystal, it could increase the reflective spin of the energy going through the crystal. So we started with 4, 6, 8, and so forth. But he didn't realize that when he didn't cut the crystal in respect to the hexagonal core of the lattice, and this is how crystals are formed on the planet Era.
Can I just say, is that
One in-
also a depiction of that spiral of life, like in the formation of a crystal, the spiral of life? What do they call that?
Oh, you mean like DNA? The DNA?
No, like your fingerprint is the same as the weather, the systems in the weather, same print on when you cut a tree. It's got that same spiral. It's that, I don't know if it's the 369, the same structure that pyramids are created with. Do you know where I'm going with this?
You're talking about sacred geometry almost, right?
Because the crystal, when I'm looking at it, I just thought of that spiral. It's almost like that same spiral.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lattice structure in the crystal. All crystals grow with a spiral, either a left or right-handed spiral, but this is a different aspect altogether.
Okay.
What happens is when you cut the crystal, like in this illustration, with the 60-degree end and 51.843-degree end, well, the 52-degree angle, it acts as a transponder in the matrix. That's why the Great Pyramid is cut exactly to that specification. And they use these pyramids on their planet with crystals inside that are wrapped with coils that elicit what they call the frill. And the 60-degree angle, you're familiar with, of course, the flower of life. And
Mhm.
basically, our structure that we're in is a tetrahedral matrix. And the tetrahedron, all angles are 60 degrees. So you have a 60-degree angle here that interfaces with the tetrahedral matrix. And you have the 52-degree angle, which is the transponder in the matrix, that's on the receiving end, and the other end is the sending end. And what happens is these, let's see, go into.
So basically, what you're saying there is the masculine and feminine energy, the giving and receiving, which makes this crystal almost like a conductor of energy in a sense, or a converter, I should say.
Well, what happens is in the receiving end has a vortex that the pyramidal termination creates a vortex of this particular frequency that's rotating in one direction, and the other one creates a vortex that's creating in the other direction. And what happens is there's an area that's the phase conjunction node of the crystal. And what happens is this opens up a singularity void into the matrix that allows you to interface. And here's what Jen Hand says about that. Let me go back here.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
Jen Hand said, it works by finding the phase conjunction node inside the crystal by projecting inwards the geometrical shapes of the two opposing points, like a mirror. There is the vortex singularity of the crystal. Focus your thought and energy just there, and you may project your consciousness to anywhere you wish in this universe, and to other universes, to other densities, other dimensions. Anything is accessible in space, dimension, and time. I am honored to be allowed to share this with you. He had to get special permission in order to share this information, because you can, with this knowledge, with a properly cut crystal, alter the structure of reality.
Universe. So this is basically astral projection. He's saying you're using computer or the crystals to project your consciousness anywhere in the universe, right?
Into like a gamma brainwave state of consciousness. And there's two ways to activate. It has to be piezoelectrically activated. Let's see if you, let me show
So
on
in our pineal gland, we have rhombohedron shaped crystals in our pineal gland that also has an effect of that piezoelectricity. So there would be a connection to us and these crystals working together.
Yes, yes, the pineal gland. In fact, we made a special device that resonates exactly at the frequency of the resonance of quartz. You can clear a quartz crystal with it because it resonates the lattice structure and it pushes out all lower vibrations, I guess you could say, out of the crystal lattice structure. And you can put it on your pineal gland and clear the pineal
Oh,
gland as well.
sign me up. That's amazing. Can you
The
purchase
engineer
these?
specially made it.
Do you sell
Yeah,
these online or anything anywhere?
I got a little
Um,
stump right there.
If you go to
About like that.
marcelvogel.org, a company, Crystal Light and Sound, is actually our engineer, created that. Here, let me show you a little bit more on that. Okay, this is how the piezoelectric works. It's normally neutral, and then when there's a physical pressure on it in one way, it generates a charge. It's like Pythagoras used to call this the star of creation, or the center point is the point of creation. So with a crystal lattice structure, it's very much it's like that, the quartz crystal lattice structure. So that when there's physical pressure, what happens is these charge centers are offset, and you can have a lot of voltage, like you have the cigarette lighters and stuff like that. You can get a spark, because you hit the quartz crystal lattice structure. They use a different type of crystal that has a piezoelectric expense. Let's see.
If this is if I could add to that, I was on a TikTok live with Jimmy, and after we were learning about you and the crystals, I decided to rub two crystals together. So I got these two rose quartz crystals. I rubbed them together to show people, turn the light off, and it generated electricity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So is that kind of like,
Piezo-luminescence, they call it.
yeah, it was absolutely incredible. I was like, oh, I wonder if that's real. Let's play around with it. And we were all surprised. It was incredible. And there's no burn marks on the crystals, it didn't heat up. They were still cold afterwards. So because people were saying, oh, that's just fire. In fact, they would rub crystals together to create fire. And I was like, no, they're not hot though. They're still really cold.
Yeah, they were comparing it to chipping rocks together to starting a fire.
Yeah. And I was
That's
like,
what
no,
they were
you're missing
thinking.
the
I'm
point.
like, that's not the same thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there's two ways to activate if you have a crystal that's cut with the two termination angles correctly, and then the six sides are cut in alignment with the lattice structure of the hexagonal core of the crystal. If you were to draw a line from one termination to the other, I put a little piece of tape here to kind of mark the area. You put your fingers in this area and you squeeze and pulse with your breath, you can open up the singularity and do it that way. But if you really want it to do it with an electronic method to really open up the eye of the crystal, you could, let's see if I can, this doesn't knock everything over.
Do both ends have to be at a point to do that with a crystal?
You can see that. It's I'm sorry, what was that?
To do what you're saying with the pulsing in the middle, do both ends of the crystal have to be at a point like this, or does one, see how mine's flat and yours has a point at both ends? There's a word for it, I can't think. To do what you're saying, does both ends have to be like,
They both ends have to be cut to 51,
okay,
52-degree angle, roughly. It doesn't have to be exact. It can be like 52-degree angle. And where I did this presentation, we actually presented to the world the first frill generator crystal on this planet. It was a replication of what they use on their planet. This is what it looks like. Let's see. It's Thorhan's older sister. This is, on their world, they have these huge crystals. I mean, they're really large, and they have them wrapped with these copper and silver coils. Now this is the device I was telling you about on this particular frequency that resonates the quartz crystal lattice structure. So what I just showed you on the camera is this setup, which has a function generator that's pulsing at 20 hertz. And what this does is it opens up the vortex singularity within the crystal. And it's a more effective way to accomplish that.
And that's incredible.
If all that makes sense.
Yeah, in a sense.
Kind of laying some heavy stuff on you, but
yeah.
this is what what's really incredible is that's one technology, and the other technology is the frill generator crystal. The frill is
That's like the
healing.
type of energy, right? That's the energy involved in the crystal.
Oh, they use it for energy on their planet. That's how they power their cities and everything.
Ah,
And it's all wireless, it's all teleported, the energy, but we're not allowed to do that yet because it's too dangerous on this planet because of the control structure that's still in place. I had 10
Yeah.
years
yeah.
of experience with that,
I,
with scientists and inventors. You don't want to go into the energy production, but this generates
nah.
frill, and frill is healing. It can
Yeah.
go into the body and it removes dissonance between the oscillations of the molecules of the body, and therefore it's healing.
Yeah.
And plants will grow crazy. So there's applications in healing and in agriculture, being able to, you could take like a quartz coil like this one and put it around it and circulate water, and the water could then feed the plants, and the plants would grow robustly because frill comes from source. Because when the eye of the crystal is opened, um, it connects directly to source, and when that happens, frill emanates from that, and they use this frill to power their cities and things.
So when you
In the
say that
biz-
you
oh,
put
go
the
ahead.
crystal with the water and which grows the plant faster and things like that, is that because of what Dr. Emoto studied with how water works and it crystallizes emotion? And that's why water and crystals work so well together because it kind of expands it further.
Well, Dr. Marcel Vogel found that the intermolecular bonding angles of quartz were like 52 degrees, and water is like 26 and 140.5, which are harmonics of that. In other words, half of 52 and twice the 52. And so it's like angular harmonic resonance. And so it, whatever you imprint into the quartz crystal then transfers into the water. He was able to take this rotgut wine from a California winery and circulate around a crystal with 7 right-hand turns and converted thousands of gallons of this rotgut wine into a California award-winning wine because it changed the molecular structure of it. Jenhan,
Awesome.
Kidding me.
yeah,
Oh wow. You wonder
Jenhan,
why they don't do that with all our food. Yeah.
yeah, well, it's kind of,
Unless they don't want to on purpose. You know.
well, not everybody has the ability or, the knowledge.
Yeah.
But
Well, let
Jenhan
me
has
ask you
said,
because in what you
yes.
said earlier when you put up the other pictures about the crystals, it had a date on there from 1966. So let me ask you, 50 odd some odd years later, almost 6 years later, why are we still not experiencing this technology if it's well known? Like
Well,
if it's not purposely kept from us.
he did mention
Right.
that because of the current system and the structure, that's, the ones who are operating the planet at the moment
Uh,
is
oh,
probably
I'm
the reason
sorry.
why.
What was 1956?
No, one of the paperwork you just put up about the crystals was this information that you're bringing out. They knew back in 1966. It was written on one of the dates on the papers you just put up there. And I'm wondering
Oh,
why
yeah.
this many years later, we're still not seeing this in society.
I don't recall that. Let me see. What was the image?
It was a black and white. Just came up
Yeah,
about a couple minutes
they're all
ago.
black and white.
Well,
Oh,
if
well.
you want to go back in, if you want to go back to ancient times, I think it was Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. There was an artifact found of that crystal with specifically, I think it was 52 degrees in angle, which was also found with a painting that looked also like a portal. So it's even it was well known even before that in ancient times. In fact, I think I also saw a video that described they used to actually cut up or crush crystals and use it as medicine, and also would cut the umbilical cord with a crystal and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and would bless the child with that spirit connection and things like that. So, you know, this was very well known way back
Oh,
when.
yeah. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Yeah, it goes, of course, back to Atlantis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So,
That's my
and
ultimate question was, how did all this get lost? Why are we just trying to figure this out now if it was already here?
Well, it never was lost. It's just not it's not taught in schools.
So why is that?
And
That had to be done
some
on
of
purpose.
this well, yeah, the Rockefellers, they took over education a long time ago. So yeah, the end of World War II was rewritten, to hide the Nazi escape and infiltration. So yeah, back in 1946. But some of this information I'm sharing with you is very, very fresh and very current, that I'm just getting from I'm honored to be able to share this with you from a scientist that's thousands of years ahead of our understanding in science.
yeah,
So this is basically extraterrestrial technology you're bringing back to Earth,
yeah.
essentially.
Well, yeah, they're extraterrestrials, so yes.
Well, you know what I'm saying. It comes from beings that aren't human giving us this information. Put it
Well,
that way.
they're human. They're just born on a different planet. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they look like us, but they look, better than us, because they live 900 to 1500 years old. They're far more advanced.
And I mean, obviously, they're
Um,
also using this exact technology, which probably explains why they look better and, you know, are more advanced than us, because they're very well aware of all this technology, which they're um, thankfully sharing with you today to be able to share with us today. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why I do these shows, because, the whole purpose is to gain more public awareness, because our planet has been hijacked, you could say, and that once these dark, deep state elements, whatever you want to give the name to, uh, have been dismantled, our whole world could unite and realize we're not each other's enemies, that we've been pitted against each other. We've been under psychological warfare, and that we could, as a peaceful civilization, join the other peaceful civilizations of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and then the technologies will roll out. Elena has been, this sounds pretty science fiction to a lot of people, but she's been actually in the moon. The moon is um, first of all, it's not our moon. It's actually a spacecraft that has been, it's hollow.
Hollow
And
asteroid, is that right? A hollowed out asteroid is what that is?
yeah,
Is that
well,
true?
it's a hollowed out planetoid is a more
Okay.
accurate term. And yeah, it gets into a complicated thing, but she's seen the facilities in there. They have massive facilities, and they've made all these med beds, the holographic med beds. One of the projects I worked on with Marcel was a holographic camera that, here, I'll show this again. Um, this was built back in the 1950s. This is primitive compared to what the med beds can do. It could tune backwards and forwards in the time. In other words, the holographic field, where you would have, like, let's say this woman was 50 miles away in England, and they put a drop of blood on the plate and these sound oscillators. They project it in 3 axes, and you could see the fetus inside this woman. And they could tune with a time spiral over here, forwards and backwards in the time. And thousands of photos were made with it. It was patented by the European Patent Office in France in 1955. And let's see.
This is
Show
incredible.
another. So essentially substantiated. Let's see, go here to sorry, these aren't more organized. Here we go. How the med beds work is that, the people have been recruited to the secret space programs. They recruit them when they're 17 years old or so. They sign the papers, and then they do 20 years of service in space, and then they age regress and time regress them back to their point of enlistment. And like 15 minutes later, they wipe their memory of it as if nothing ever happens. But you have all these people having total memory recall.
Mm.
So how they do this is that the medbeds use this fractal holographic technology, that the fractal core formula of the tissue to be repaired is recorded, and then the perfect unaltered geometrical pattern is reconstructed and superimposed on the damaged pattern, and the old pattern instinctively pairs and morphs into the new one because the universe tends to perfection.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a holographic repairing. This sound frequency is used to tie in the new pattern to the old one. And that's how Jenhan describes it. So I have several close friends that have been in the secret space program that have lost arms, legs, had their bodies almost cut in half, and put into these med beds and completely restored back again. So, and so if we had this technology, suffering and disease and old age, wouldn't be such an issue, because you could energetically restructure yourself back to a point where your structure was more optimal. Yeah, like say, back in your 20s or whatever.
Do
Yeah,
do
so
you
is that-
know?
I was going to ask, does that anything to do with the holographic beds that Alex Collier talks about, where they can go back and they can actually take
Oh.
a picture of you from back when you
Oh,
were healthy and then transfer that?
It is absolutely an accurate description that the Andromedans described to him, that they actually called a camera that'll take a holographic picture of you that goes all the way back to the moment of conception. And then what they can do is tune through the holographic field of time and pull out slides where all the different parts of your body were optimal. And then they combine that together, and then they overlay that on the body, and then the body morphs into that. And so, yes, exactly as Alex Collier described.
Do you have
Yeah.
any intel on whether or not this is going to be something in the foreseeable future? Because this is just too incredible not to have here on Earth. Do you know if, and also, do they already have them and it's something that we're not aware of?
Well, I understand the military has I don't know exactly where or anything like that, but they have some, and they're treating there's been some horrific operations being done, child trafficking and so forth, and off-planet trafficking of humans and stuff. But fortunately, the regressive extraterrestrials have been removed from our solar system back in 2021. So now it's just a matter of, cleaning house of the Earth minions that are left. But yeah, I'm hoping as soon as possible. And
Yeah.
The government continues to deny, we don't have any evidence of extraterrestrial. We don't have any evidence of
Yeah.
reverse engineering extraterrestrial craft. They continue to be deceptive. I just did a show yesterday with Dr. Michael Salla that will come
Oh,
out tomorrow, and it goes into in
Huge fan.
detail.
I love that
Um,
show.
yeah, he's awesome. You
Yeah.
need more people that do the research. But yeah, once we can clean up the situation here on Earth, we're kind of on a probationary period right now. As soon as we can get to the point where we you know, we have to grow up and take responsibility for ourselves. They're not going to come save us, but
Yeah.
we have to clean our own act
Yeah.
up.
If you don't
And
learn your own
once,
lesson, then
yeah,
why'd you go through it?
let me, 1 second, I'm gonna turn
I think
turn off
that's the most
turn off this
important.
heater. It's getting hot.
I think that's one of the most important things that we can do for ourselves. And that's why I feel it's important to share videos like this and also teach those that doing self-work on yourself and spread this awareness is the start of us changing, because we all have to have responsibility for our actions, thoughts, and deeds, and expanding our own consciousness to be able to allow this new technology, because the way that things are now is almost at that shaky point where people are starting to wake up, news is getting out, things are a little bit chaotic, a little bit messy, which is good because it means change is coming. But first we do have to do the work within ourselves before
Right.
obviously the new transition. So yeah.
Absolutely. Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Well, very well said.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And love is the key. Love is how we evolve into the higher densities. There's there's multiple universes, and we're in a particular universe, and in this particular universe there's density levels and we're all fractals of this one source. And through love we evolve from one density level to the next, into the higher frequencies. And that's why, some of these extraterrestrials are of a certain lower frequency. The lower frequency ones can't perceive the higher frequency ones, but the higher frequency ones can perceive the lower. And so it works that way. The higher is like the blueprint of reality into physical manifestation. And so it's like Dr. Marcel Vogel did an experiment with a drop of water from a sacred spring, which had a high energy structure to it. And he put it in one drop into a little vat of unstructured bulk water. And every single drop in that bulk water has the same energy structure. It mirrored it into every single
It
drop. But if
just
you take
changed like that. One drop
Wow.
changed the whole
one
thing.
drop, changed the whole structure,
Is that right?
because the higher patterns the lower doesn't pattern the higher. And
Right.
because an unstructured doesn't have, the higher the structure, the less dissonance, I guess you could say.
Right.
The higher the structure, the more alignment. Like that's why when you put a thought of love and gratitude and thankfulness and things, like Dr. Emoto's work, it forms into the water, which the molecular structure of water is based on the same core fractal formula, according to Jenhan, as love and quartz crystals.
So do you think that
Mhm.
when we, cook our food with our water, say we're boiling rice or making our cup of coffee or anything that involves water, we can tell it, you are love, so that when I eat this and partake in this food or this drink, that could be transferred into your body as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. Water mirrors its environment. It's like a perfect mirror of whatever it's exposed to. So when you drink water, you know, and you can use a crystal to
Yeah.
project into the water, and you can, or just use your thought with your breath, and pulse, this water is going to go in and revitalize my body and nurture, some positive thought before you drink the water, and it like programs the water. And that's why it's good to we structure our water here. If the water is structured, it
Mm,
means that it has its natural hexagonal shape. It makes it very easy to program,
yeah.
because it um
Oh, right. There you go.
it's like an
That's the
antenna.
correlation between the shape of the crystal and the hexagonal properties of the water. That's incredible.
Yeah. It's the matrix is hexagonal. It's a tetrahedral, which is you put the tetrahedrons together, it forms hexagons, and the matrix of the universe is tetrahedral. And when we think rather, our thoughts are geometrical projections that affect the holographic structure of reality.
So tell me this. I've heard somewhere that everything in our reality is our own projection, including the people, places, situations, and things in our life. We project that ourselves, right? Even you right now, you're just a projection basically of my imagination. So I, in a sense, manifested this interview. So
Here I am.
but I can't wrap my head around it. I really
Mr.
can't.
Projection.
um,
Well, um, our consciousness is, our subconscious, uh, we have programs in our subconscious mind. And as we believe the world to be, um, it somewhat, you could say, projects it into our outer world. What what we believe within us projects outward.
mm, yeah.
Could
Yeah.
I ask you a question? Like this might take you back off the subject. We'll edit this around, but what is your feeling about speaking in front of Congress only a few months before 9/11? And how do you feel about what happened after you spoke to Congress and 9/11? Like, is there a connection to that? And what were they trying to
Oh,
hide something?
absolutely. Yeah, they had plans, a long series of plans. Werner von Braun on his deathbed, he talked about the series of plans. First would be the Soviets, and then terrorists, then rogue nations, asteroids, and the false flag alien invasion, and the last. Now, this was May of 2001. Dr. Cal Rosen was the spokesperson for Werner von Braun, and she revealed on his deathbed that this was the plan. And so after, 4 months later, we had the 9/11 event, just as the plan was disclosed. And it was a false flag event. Absolutely. And
9/11 was
and then we have rogue nations, they said. Well, then we have North Korea, we have Iran, and so forth. And so, it's been kind of falling into place. The last card, as they said, is the false flag alien invasion, which, with the narrative that the media puts out of the alien threat, there's no alien threat in our solar system since 2021.
the human
Uh,
beings, right? Human
they've
beings
been,
pretending to be something.
no, say again?
I'm saying when this false flag happens to or not occur, it's not aliens or extraterrestrials. It's human beings pretending to be them.
Oh, well, they've had the Nazi Germany had anti-gravity developed back in 1934.
Yeah.
The United States didn't develop it until October of 1954. So they've had the technology to pull it off. And they've been wanting to keep it secret all this time. They keep denying that we have, the anti-gravity technology. Anyway, it goes into a long history. Watch Dr. Salla tomorrow. It'll explain a lot.
Ah,
I might have to link that interview below
yeah.
this podcast as well.
I
Actually,
can't
that'd be
tell you
good.
because it's in the book.
I just wanted to go back to 2021. So are you saying it's ended? It's over?
Well, the Galactic Federation of Worlds, working with the Earth Alliance, which is the people of Earth, have gathered together with, where is the, when we did the National Press Club in 2001, inspired, Gary McKinnon, the computer hacker, discovered the US Navy Solar Warden program, which launched
Yeah.
back in the 1980s. And so, uh, we've we've had for a long time a problem with the Nebu Greys that have been abducting people ever since MJ-12 circumvented Eisenhower back in 1954. And you have the Draco reptilians, the Sakaar Empire, that entered into an alliance with the Nazi SS and gave them advanced technology. And, you know, Professor Hermann Oberst said we had help from the people of other worlds. They were the people of other worlds that, you know, defeated Admiral Byrd when he went down Operation High Jump and so forth. But those guys have been removed out of our solar system. And this has been substantiated by the Arlington Institute. John Peterson is a U.S. Navy funded think tank. 3 independent sources have verified that these regressive extraterrestrials have been removed from our solar system in 2021, which matches what Elena Danaan revealed earlier, that this is true. So what we have to deal with is just the Earth minions. They're extraterrestrial overlords, their higher structure is no longer available to them. So they're on their own.
Oh, there you go. Amazing.
Okay, so let me ask you this. If we're talking about med beds and all this type of stuff on one end, but then you got a Bill
My
Gates.
favorite subjects.
Right. But then you got a Bill Gates talking about the population of the planet on the same other end of it. I mean, how do
Well,
you have
there's an
both of them
agenda to
sitting?
reduce the population,
Yeah.
obviously, as
Yep.
we all know.
Yeah.
And so they want to reduce the population, have a small slave force. Well, they keep the advanced technology for themselves, but that's all going to fail.
I think there was something
Um,
about when you get to, I think it was 9 billion is what they don't want to get to. I can't remember the conversation
Oh
that played out,
yeah.
right?
It was actually
we
it was
turn
actually not
telepathic.
over 8 billion.
Oh, okay.
There's
And we're
something
already
about the
over 8 billion.
population gets to a point where we all turn telepathic
Mm.
naturally for some reason. Is that true? In your estimation?
Well, when we evolve, yes, we can be more telepathic.
Well,
but
no, the idea, this came from a podcast we just had, was that they said that once the population of the planet, the reason they're depopulating the planet isn't so much for the slave trade, like that might be a benefit, is that once we get to a population of what Natalie said of 9 billion, that the consciousness will switch to telepathy. And then at that point, there are no lies.
Yeah.
We're all
I
connected.
don't know anything about that.
No?
I haven't heard that before, but
Okay.
that doesn't resonate with me. But
Mm.
what where we were going with that was that if we get to the point where we can release these technologies, there's remote places on the planet that could be habit. There's not a problem with overpopulation. There's other planets that can be, colonized. There's not really, you don't have to, kill masses of people. It doesn't have to work that way. I mean, we could, if they release the technologies, there would be, food abundance. We can clean up the planet, just across every area. You have all these dangerous, obsolete. We've been using nuclear, oil, coal. CBS interviewed me. I said, I'm not doing this interview unless I can say we have the scientists that can prove we have 0-point energy that eliminate the need for nuclear oil and coal. They promise, and the producer said, I know we promise, but the higher executives, read CIA, made me cut that part out. So, they
Oh, the CIA got involved in that to cut that out.
Well, the CIA controls the mainstream media. Yeah, the
Mm.
CIA's been ever since Operation Mockingbird 1950, and they consolidated all using ever since 1983 at the Sun Valley Conference. They consolidated all the mainstream medias down to 6 corporations that the intelligence communities control. That's why the talking points are the same across multiple platforms. But yes, the intelligence communities controls our perceptions.
So let me ask you this. If like what you just said, the Nazis had mastered anti-gravity in 34, and then like John Lear said his father's company had mastered it anti-gravity in 1954. Okay, so essentially any rocket, anything done with fossil fuels since then has only been done to fool the public. Okay,
Well,
so
that's exactly what Dr. Stephen Greer testified and said, is that he
Mm.
knew somebody that was in the National Security Agency that got inside the vault, and that we had obtained gravity control by October 1954. So, rockets, internal combustion engines, surface roadways, all these things are obsolete. So, yeah, NASA was created back in 1950s, 57, 58. And it was run by the Nazi SS, Dr. Kurt
Oh.
Gewalt,
right,
so
Project
they
Paperclip, right?
keeping us believing we need rockets to overcome gravity, whereas they figured out the torsion physics back in the
Right.
1930s.
Well, my ultimate question for you is right now you got SpaceX out there and they're trying to break through a firmament, which is a word I haven't heard till recently, but everybody believes it now. It's a fact of reality. I mean, where are you at that? And
The
then you have
firmament.
Elon talking about the same rockets. He's still shooting rockets off. So at what point is somebody going to tell the truth?
Well, they got to keep the show going,
Yeah.
until the deep state
Just saying, even
is
Elon's a big bunch of
dismantled.
bullshit.
Well,
I
of
hate to
course
say
it
it like that,
is.
but come on.
Well, of course it is. Yeah, but they have to keep the bullshit going because that's the agreed upon reality that they have to perpetuate. Whereas
Yeah, yeah,
they've
yeah.
they've mastered anti-gravity a long
Mhm.
time ago, but they have to show the public these rockets, So, I mean, he's doing a
Yeah.
hell of a job working with, primitive
Yeah.
primitive rockets.
So what are we watching up there when we're seeing what they call a firmament and some rocket making this weird stuff in the sky? Like they're acting like they're trying to break through some kind of shield.
Well,
Like how could
we
you
don't have a
have
flat Earth with a
extraterrestrials?
dome or anything like that going on.
That's what I'm
Uh,
saying. Like how can you have extraterrestrials coming out and the dome? It can't be both of them.
no, there's no dome. The Earth is a sphere, and it's
Okay,
not
so what
flat.
are we seeing up there? What are they
That's a
doing? Just
DARPA
perpetuating
psyops.
bullshit? Okay. Okay.
Uh,
I agree with you.
what are we seeing? What do you mean? What are we seeing?
Well, I mean, the guy's shooting rockets off there, telling everybody, people are cheering this off like we're trying to break through a glass ceiling of some kind, like to quote Hillary Clinton. Uh, but it's none of that can be real, and both of these be true at the
I
same time.
haven't heard about trying to break through a glass ceiling, so I
Well,
don't know what
that's
that
the
is.
words. I'm not saying glass ceiling. That's what Hillary says, but the
Or
firmament.
any kind of thing that is we've been out in space. We've been
Right.
to the moon, except what you saw on television in 1969 wasn't what was actually being shown. So, and the transmission was interrupted. So,
What is
they
your
didn't
opinion on
hear.
that?
Neil Armstrong was saying, "Oh my God, these babies are huge, sir. They're enormous. They're sitting on the far
Oh.
edge of the crater. Uh,
Mhm.
they basically the reptilians that were huge, massive, massive ships were lined up along the crater, and they warned them off the moon. But they've
Mhm.
been kicked off the moon, and they kicked off Mars and other planetoids like Ceres and so forth. Back in 2021 rather. So that's no longer the situation.
Wow.
Bill
But
Thompson talks about that. It's brilliant. So you think they made those videos up, not so much that, I mean, they've
oh,
been AIs prove they're
William
wrong.
Tompkins, he's awesome. Yeah, love that
Yeah.
man.
So they made these videos up, like we all know, not because they didn't go to the moon. They really went. They just couldn't show us the real videos.
Right. They knew ahead of time. One of the witnesses that I joined in 2001, Carl Wolf, they did the lunar orbiter project where they mapped the both sides of the moon,
Mhm.
and they saw the alien bases on the moon. And so he testified and said, here it is, 30 years ago today. Hope to hear it on the evening news, but it never went on the evening news. The evening news completely sanitized it, made the whole thing. We were disclosing, 57 different species, bases on
Yeah.
the other side of the moon, 0 point energy, president, CIA directors being denied access, just incredible explosive testimonies. And it made it sound as though the whole thing was just that they wanted a congressional hearing about the reality of UFOs. But the congressional hearing we were seeking was the whole event back in 2001 was because Admiral Thomas Wilson, who was the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dr.
Yeah.
Greer showed him this unacknowledged special access program. He was denied
The
access.
Wilson memo.
No, no.
Or
But that's what generated the Wilson memo. But he was threatened to drop the matter immediately or lose rank. And he told Dr. Greer, to go before the mainstream media with your witnesses that you've been collecting since 1993 when he met the CIA director, James Woolsey. So he collected about 500 military intelligence witnesses, 21 of which I was one, were willing to go before the 22 cameras of the mainstream media of the world and state they were willing to testify under oath for a congressional hearing. So that's what brought about the 2001 National Press Club. And Admiral Wilson was pissed, and so he
yeah, I read
met
that.
with Dr. Eric Davis and transcribed the discussion. And the Admiral Wilson memo got leaked, which was talking about working on technology that's not of this earth. And anyway, Dr. Eric Davis, he's it's saying we haven't made much progress. We haven't done it, but no, we've got a lot of progress.
Well, I just want to say one thing real quick. You just mentioned the 57 extraterrestrials, and
It was
one of my
Sergeant
yes,
Clifford Stone.
Clifford Stone, one of my favorite men I've ever witnessed on video or whatever. That guy was part of your disclosure project, right? And
Oh yeah,
he
we're
was
friends. Yeah, we
there.
were friends until he passed
Oh,
away. Yeah.
oh, rest in peace to him. And I just wanted to bring his name up so that anybody hears this, if they want to hear a real UFO retrieval discussion, that man is brilliant. Okay. I just love everything he says. And I
Oh
just
yeah,
want
I
to put
was
that
with
out.
him. I was sitting next to him when we went to a Pentagon meeting, and he told the story about, there was an extraterrestrial they captured and he was a
In the
prisoner,
base.
and
Yeah.
and
He
he
put him
he
under the
helped.
fence.
That's the one. Yeah, he helped him
Yeah.
escape, because he said to him telepathically, I'm afraid,
Mhm.
And when he said that, the emotion in Clifford, I mean, he had generals and admirals in this group,
Oh,
and everybody got teary-eyed. It was like an emotional
when he ever
thing
tells a
that happened.
story, he can't say it without getting emotional. Like he relives it. Like he starts crying in the middle of speaking it. It's attached to him, like to his soul, especially with that story. He was like that
People
alien
have
wouldn't
this
speak to nobody
telepathic
but him.
ability. I noticed there is an intense emotional, like my friend Jean-Charles Moyen, is
Yeah.
a French secret space program, and was in the French
Yeah. He's
section of
awesome
the
too.
Solar Warden program. He has telekinetic abilities, and he can turn lights off and on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he,
Awesome.
he's
Yeah.
very,
He's
very
great too.
sensitive
I know him.
and
I don't
emotional.
know him, but yeah, he's great. Great story he's got going too. He made a movie, that guy, didn't he? Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
cartoonish.
yeah. If you go to JC Moyen, Moyen, yeah, you can access the movie. He yeah, he was attacked on Mars with a black Draco. cut his body almost completely in half. He saved his friend's life, and in doing so, he exposed himself to the Draco attack. And they put him on a med bed that had crystals on the inside, and it completely restructured his body back again.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, we've definitely gone a little bit over an hour. How are you for time? Did you want to stop
Oh,
here?
it's like what, 8 minutes after the hour. We could go for, 15, 20 minutes more. And
Yeah.
if you
I just
want,
had I had a
got
good
some good
question.
questions we can
Y-
explore. I love questions. I love it when people ask questions. People don't ask enough questions.
I have a question for you right now.
Ah,
How's
damn
that?
it. Okay, go.
You go first. Go ahead, Natalie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this might be a good question, but this is something I formulated this morning. And this goes back to all the secret space program interviewees we've had. I've learned a little bit about the Greys. Okay, so part of the question is to do with artificial intelligence, crystals involved in this. The Greys I was told, are like drones. They're artificial in a sense. And
Biological computer.
yeah, it got me thinking about crystals and consciousness, and I wonder if these crystals and what you were explaining about it has something to do with the future of artificial intelligence, because you can't have all-knowing information, because the only thing that's all-knowing is God's source creation itself. But if you can connect consciousness and crystals together, does this mean that this could be the beginning of AI?
Well, consciousness, crystals can embed consciousness. As far as artificial intelligence, well, the Greys are like like in Star Trek, like the Borg, they basically want to simulate, they're like a hive mind. And
Mm.
what happened was Commander Demethor, who is the chief scientist officer of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, they were able to capture some of these Greys that were actually the ones that met with Eisenhower back in the 50s, and had him in a stasis. And so he was able to decode. See, they're all connected to a hive mind queen. The queen controls all their minds. It's like in the insect world and things, like they all work together as one mind. That's this kind of race. They all
Like
like
bees do.
operate from, yeah, like exactly like bees with a queen, right? And so he was able to go in and connect to the queen, because if they if they became awake, the queen would terminate them immediately. But they was able to get in there and, I guess, send somewhat of a virus, I guess, into the queen and dismantled the queen. And so he kind of saved the whole galaxy, you know, by
It's
doing that, because
cool.
they were terrible. They were like these ruthless little sneaky bastards that what they were doing was they knew that MJ-12 wanted technology, and so, well, we'll abduct people because we need, our race needs DNA. But actually, they were trying to work around the Prime Directive, abduct people. They would, like what happened with Elena. They inseminate you
Mm.
with this, and then they take the baby, and they have these hybrids, and that they were creating these. Hybrids underground. And the idea
Oh.
was to basically simulate our planet with these hybrids, and as a workaround for the Prime Directive. But the Prime Directive has since been modified to address that in case that situation ever happens again. But that's no longer a
Wow.
concern. They're being handled, and so they are no longer a threat.
Mm.
I guess that's good.
Oh yeah, they're devious little bastards. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, I don't want to get into this, but I had telepathy with a gray a month or so ago.
And now all
Um,
grays are bad. There's a lot of different
no,
species of grays.
listen, what was explained to me was incredible. He explained to me that light workers do not understand the symbiotic relationship between the light and the dark, and how a light being or a positive being would transfer negative or energy into negative, and how negative beings would transfer it back to positive. And that's how you have
You got to
infinite
have both.
energy. Right.
Source is
That's the
dual in
infinite
nature.
energy. And then
Yeah,
he
that's
also
what.
explained is that basically everything we do here on this planet is that it's a mental construct that you're bound by your fear. And he goes, if you get past your own fear, you can find out that these negative beings, the grays, the reptilians, they could be your best friend in a way, because they can push you towards a reality you would have never gotten to if you just stayed positive. Right?
Well, how we resonate is what we attract. So, if you're in fear, you lower your vibration, and then you can attract a low vibration. So yeah, it's law of attraction
Well,
type of thing.
his whole thing was more or less is not to fear the negativity, but more learn from it and use it as an
Opportunity.
energy. Right. An
Yeah.
energy. It was described almost like people sitting on the beach being afraid to go in the ocean because it's so powerful. But yet when a guy goes out there and surfs that wave, he's using that to achieve
Mm.
something you would never achieve unless you face your fear. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
it helps us evolve. The
Right.
challenges in our life are these gifts, you could say, in a way that gives us these opportunities to evolve. And that's how we evolve, is dealing with shit. Dealing with things.
There we have it. Deal with shit and your life will
that was
evolve much
basically the whole
greater.
thing. Face your fear.
I love
Walk
it.
through your fear and be
Exactly.
more powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And know that love is the only power.
Amen.
Showing up.
Anything else is illusion.
A manipulation.
Well, did you have any other further questions at all, Jimmy? Or
I do have one question for you. I got this right here in my hand. So we just talked about the crystals and the frill. Sorry. So when you have a crystal, and I got this, if you can see this, and it's got the little crystals inside, and then the copper wound around the crystal. And what I would do is put it on my third eye if I meditated. Apparently that does some kind of antenna thing. I wonder, what is it about wrapping the 7 times around with copper wire? What is the difference between certain numbers and that? What does the copper do, and what is the number of rotations around it? What is that based on?
Well, 7 has to do with certain things of, sacred geometry and creation. What we're doing with the frill generator crystal is something completely different, with we have like almost 40 turns, but it doesn't matter the number of turns. It has to do with a lot of technical things. Um, uh, people use this for electroculture. They take crystals and wind copper coils
yeah.
around it. It helps draw in the frill into the atmosphere, the quartz is the quartz resonates with source, you could say, and so um, it it's universal that way. I'm not sure if
So,
I answering your question.
yeah, so like essentially a crystal is a memory card. Is that right?
A crystal will you can imprint thoughts into the quartz crystal lattice structure, absolutely.
Okay. So, just real quick, we were told last week about these crystal skulls. There's 12 crystal skulls, and then there's one they haven't found that's the universal crystal skull. But apparently, you can get near this crystal skull, and it will transfer that knowledge to you, right to your, consciousness. Is that what crystals are doing as well?
Well, not unless you intend that, you can what they call psychometrize, where you can pull the information from something. Everybody has that ability to do that. Marcel worked with the Michael Hedges crystal skull, and he believed that that the skull was used as an information transfer, like where the older adept, the priest would transfer his information into the skull, and then a young girl came in and then transfer out of the crystal skull into her consciousness all the wisdom of the older adept into it. And that's a vision that he saw, that it was used as a information transfer. And it kind of makes sense because everything's form resonance. So you have our skull, is that form. And so, and that's what I know about that.
Awesome.
That was incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom on these crystals and the power that they hold. I would love to get a hold of Elena Danan at some point and maybe have her on the show as well to talk more on this. But yeah, I just want to thank you for being here. You've really taught us a lot, and I really admire, what you're doing now and your continuation of sharing these gifts and this knowledge. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you much for everything that you're doing.
Yeah, Dan, this is a
Oh, it was
complete
my
honor for me to
pleasure.
talk to you. Just
We
an honor to talk to you, bud.
we have so much yet to learn, and I'm learning more all the time. So I think it's important that the work you're doing is, spreading information by doing your shows and things, and it helps. We're all connected in a collective mind on this planet, in this planetary matrix, and so the more people become aware, the more exponential it creates more people becoming aware. So it helps in the global collective awakening.
Well, to finish off the podcast, can you leave us with a positive message for the viewers as a takeaway from your message?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, know that we each have this incredible ability within us, and that our main, like Thorhan says, our main responsibility is to raise our frequency, and raise our frequency with love. When you put your thoughts into a positive visualization of seeing the world like as you feel in your heart you would like to see that world to be, and you feed that, nurture that within you. No person is an island in all this. We are all interconnected, and we're all fractals of this one source, and we're all connected in this planetary matrix, rather, and it affects it. And study, research. The more you learn, the more you educate yourself, the more you can see through, the BS that's happening in the world, and be able to help contribute to the liberation of our planet. And love and appreciation to both of you. Thank you.
It's a complete honor for me to speak with you.
Yeah.
Pleasure's all mine.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Hopefully there'll be a part 2, because I feel like there's so many more things we can cover. But yeah, this was awesome.
We'll do it again. This is just stirring up some ideas for some new questions.
Exactly. All right. Take care, you two.
Listen,
all right.
On a side note, Dan, we're not going to put this out there. I just got to say, what are you doing that you put these pictures out of you in front of, 23 years ago? You look like you're only about 2 years older than you did back in 2001.
No, thanks. Well, I'll be 75 next month. But
Get the hell out of here. Really?
yeah.
Holy shit.
Well, there's an exercise that next
You're
show I'll
Irish.
show you how to that the Palladians have showed how to rejuvenate yourself with the crystal, and in fact you don't even need the crystal, but it helps accelerate the
Podcast
process.
number 2 right
To
there.
be continued.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, we could-
we'll do
we
that.
could
We'll do that next time.
Yeah, we could
Yeah.
shut down all kinds of weight loss programs and shit right there. We could shut Weight Watchers down with that information. But yeah, man, I appreciate everything.
All right. Well,
Oh.
we'll see you next time.
All right.
man. Take care, man. I'll just keep talking, so I'm gonna shut the phone off, man.
Bye.
I'll see you.
Bye.